In the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And when you hear the word from God, you will arrive at your divine status. We are going through the Gospel of Mark, chapter 11. Now, at the end of chapter 10, a man who had called upon Jesus as the Messiah. He was a blind man, and because of his faith in the Messiah, he received his sight. And thereafter, this man followed Jesus in the way. Now we come to chapter 11, and wherein he states, and he's mentioned, when they came nigh to Jerusalem, unto Bethphage and Bethany at the Mount of Olives, he sendeth forth two of his disciples. Now we come to the final phase of Jesus' ministry. His ministry was for 3 years. 2.5 years of his ministry was over. And the last 6 months of his ministry takes a different shape altogether. And now they are entering into Jerusalem. They're coming into Jerusalem. So when they came nigh to Jerusalem unto Bethphage and Bethany, there were two little towns close by at the Mount of Olives, the famous Mount of Olives, where they spent a great deal of time. So at that time, Jesus sent forth two of his disciples. He sent two of his disciples for a particular purpose. And saith unto them, and he told his disciples, two of those two disciples, go your way into the village over against you. So that is to say, go to the village close to you, close by. As soon as you have entered into it, you shall find a colt tied, whereon never man sat. Loose him and bring him. So his instruction was that they proceed to the nearby village, and at the entrance of it, you will find a colt tied. A colt. A colt can be a young horse, but it can also be a male donkey. So in this instance, it was a male donkey, whereon never a man sat. No man had ridden that donkey before. It was tied there. Loose him and bring him. And loose him, untie him and bring the donkey here. Now, why is it that Jesus was going to enter the city of Jerusalem on a donkey, not on a horse? A conquering hero enters into a city, a military leader or a king, enters into a city in a triumphal manner, riding on a horse. But as far as Jesus was concerned, he was entering the city of Jerusalem in a humble manner. So therefore, he was entering it on a donkey, on a male donkey. Because he was what he was, and in a humble manner, riding on a donkey, he entered Jerusalem. He was going to enter Jerusalem. And it's a donkey wherein no one had sat on it. No one had ridden that donkey. And he told them, bring it over. And then he told the disciples, and if any man say unto you, why do you do this? If any man asks you, why are you untying that donkey? Say you that the Lord hath need of him. Just tell them that the Lord had need of him. The word Lord in the Jewish language or culture, it means that master or teacher. So either way, the master or the teacher has the need of it. And straight away he'll send him hither, and they will immediately permit the donkey to be released and taken away. So therefore he said, just tell the Lord hath need of this. And Lord, the master, had the need of it. They went their way, line number 4, and they went their way and found the colt tied by the door without in a place where two ways met. So they went to the village, and they went to a place where they found the colt, wherein two ways met. It was a place wherein the street was branching into two. And at that point, where it was tied, and they loosed him and brought him over. Now, certain of them that stood there said unto them, what do you losing the colt? Now I'm using the St. James version of English, which is Old English, which is a little different from regular English, which is currently being spoken in the world. So I'm reading that. And certain of them that stood there said unto them, what do you losing that colt? Why is it that you are losing that colt? You are untying it? And they said unto them, even as Jesus had commanded, and they let them go. And they told them as Jesus had told them to mention it. And they immediately let them take the colt. And they brought the colt to Jesus, and they brought it and cast their garments on him. And then these disciples, they cast their garments onto the colt, the donkey, the male donkey, and he sat upon him. And Jesus sat upon it, not as a conquering hero, but as a humble servant of God, as a humble servant of God, a humble, pious servant of God, in an unassuming manner, in a simple manner, entering without pomp and pageantry into the city. And then, as he was entering, many spread their garments in the way. And many of those who were around, they spread their garments in the way. They put their garments on the way, just like that Israel was giving him a red carpet treatment in their own way. So they were putting their garments. And some of the others cut down branches of the trees. And there were others also who cut branches from nearby trees and immediately put it on the ground. So that was a way by which, it was a Jewish custom at that time, that if any person of celebrity enters into a town or a city, they would so receive him. So therefore, they cut down branches and spread it on the ground with leaves on it. And strewed them in the way. And they that went before, and they that followed. And there were some of those people, they went before him, and some of them went behind him, following him. And they cried, saying, Hosanna, blessed he that cometh in the name of the Lord. Hosanna, Hosanna means praise be to the Lord, praise be to the Lord. Blessed he that cometh in the name of the Lord. Blessed is he that cometh in the name of the Lord. So in the name of the Lord means as a Messiah. Blessed is he who cometh. So some of them recognized him as a Messiah. In the name of the Lord, he is coming as a Messiah. Some of them did did recognize him as the future, as the Messiah. Then some of the others felt, blessed be the kingdom of our father David. Blessed be the kingdom of our father David that cometh in the name of the Lord. And others had a feeling that blessed be the kingdom of our father David. The others thought, because it was understood at that time that he would come in the lineage of David as the king of the Jews. So some people felt that he would come as a conquering hero, as the king of the Jews. So there were two types of people who were crying. So one type was crying and shouting, blessed be the Lord, Hosanna, praise be to the Lord. The others were saying that, well, blessed be the conqueror, the conqueror, the king of the Jews, Now, what happened was, as Jesus was, as it is mentioned, the colt was tied, wherein the way parted into two. One way leading to the temple, Jerusalem, the temple of Jerusalem, the other way leading to the Roman garrison. So when Jesus took the path leading to the temple, some of them were disappointed. Well, he should have been taking the path to conquer the Romans. Instead, he is going towards the temple in a humble manner. So some of them were disappointed. Some of them felt that, well, he is on the right track, going towards the temple. And Jesus entered into Jerusalem. He entered into Jerusalem and into the temple. He entered into the temple. And when he had looked around upon all things, and he looked around, made a survey, because it was a very huge temple with many features in it. Looked around about all things, and then he surveyed everything which was there. He looked around, surveyed everything, and then since it was evening, he went out unto Bethany with the 12. Then he returned back. He returned back to Bethany with his 12 disciples. Then, having spent the night in Bethany, and the Garden of the Olives, the Mount of Olives, having spent his night there, and then on the morrow, the following morning, line number 12, when they were come from Bethany, he was hungry. So when they returned back in the morning, he felt a little hungry, Jesus. And seeing a fig tree afar off, having leaves, and he saw a fig tree, because in that part of Israel, there were many fig trees. And in some of the fig trees, that figs would still be there. People would not pluck all the fig leaves, the figs from the tree. They would leave some figs for the travelers and the wayfarers who would pass through. So invariably, many of those trees would still have some figs left, even if it was not the season. Because people would still leave them on. They wouldn't pluck everything for the travelers, for the wayfarers to pluck a few figs. And seeing a fig tree afar off, having leaves, and the fig tree had leaves, so he came, if happily he might find anything thereon. So he happily came there to find whether he could pluck some leaf, because he felt hungered. And when he came to it, he found nothing but leaves. But when he came to the tree, he found there were no figs at all. It had only leaves there. It was a barren tree. It had no leaves, no figs at all. It was for the time of figs, and also the time of figs was not yet, and that it was not the time for figs too, as they say. And Jesus answered and said unto it, and Jesus saw that, and then he pronounced a curse upon the tree. No man eat fruit of thee hereafter forever. And on this tree, no man shall eat fruit the hereafter forever. And his disciples heard it He just mentioned it. For whatever reason, for whatever purpose, he just mentioned it. And his disciples heard it. And they come to Jerusalem, and they came into Jerusalem and went into the temple. Now there's a drama going to unfold in the temple, a big drama. And Jesus went into the temple and began to cast out them that sold and bought in the temple. And he began to cast out them. He began to throw those people away. He overturned the tables, threw the chairs, threw the goods, unleashed the birds which were there in cages, the money changers who were there on the table with their money. He threw them out, began to cast out that sold and bought in the temple. For the temple had become a marketplace. The temple had become a profitable marketplace for people to trade, and also for the priests to earn a lot of money from there, because a lot of trade was going on, and they would get their commission too, the priest. So the temple had become a mall, as you call it, wherein various things could be bought and sold. Various items are bought and sold in the premises, because it was a huge courtyard. The temple had a huge courtyard around which things are bought and sold in the temple area. And he overthrew the tables of the money changers. He overthrew the tables. He threw away the tables and the money too. He threw it. And the seats of them that sold doves. And there were people who were selling doves and other things. And he threw the seats away, the chairs of them that sold doves, and would not suffer that any man should carry any vessel through the temple. And also he saw to it that no man should carry any vessel, any equipment for whatever, any offerings or anything like that through the temple. And he taught, saying unto them, and he began teaching them, and he taught, saying unto them, is it not written, my house shall be called of all nations the house of prayer? Is it not written in the scriptures, my house? So God is saying, my house, my temple, the temple of my temple of worship shall be called the house of prayer. My temple is meant to be a house of prayer, but you have made it a den of thieves. You have made it into a den of thieves, because all types of businesses, profitable businesses, people were buying and selling many items and many goods in the temple area. It had become a marketplace, and the priests are making a huge profit out of it. So even today too, that's the same thing. People build a temple, more so as a business investment. And this is a phenomenon found in all parts of the world. The building of a temple is 100% profit return without any loss. So it has become a business enterprise for those who are interested in making money. So the house of prayer, the house of God, has been converted by the priest and those who are interested to make a profit in the temple. So the whole purpose has changed, has disappeared. It was then so is it so today too. Same thing, even today too. Because a temple is only meant for worship. Wherein with piety, everyone enters into a temple to be in a reverential, pious state, having their prayers, saying their prayers to God. In a temple, in a true temple, there are no rituals, there are no ritualistic ceremonies. The rituals and the ritualistic ceremonies were all invented by the priest for their own glory, not for the glory of God. And also, these rituals in the temples were invented and created by the priest the world over as a good source of livelihood, wherein people would be making their offerings. They're making their offerings. And these are the recipients of those offerings. They offer things in cash. I can tell you a very interesting anecdote which transpired about 60 to 70 years ago in India. There was a prosperous businessman in Agra, where the Taj Mahal is. And he had made a vow to God, the God Vishnu, that if he succeeds in his business, he would make an offering. So accordingly, he succeeded and he was going to make an offering. So on the way, a monk was going towards from Agra to that temple to that Vishnu temple in Badrinath, which was about 400 kilometers away. And the businessman, he gave at that time 1,000 rupees to be put into the till of the temple, into the money box of the temple. He said, since I had made this vow, put it into the money box of the temple. So now what did this monk do? Of course, he took the money and he began distributing that. At that time, 1,000 rupees was equal to 100,000 rupees today. And he was distributing that money to the poor on the way. Now, the man heard that the monk, instead of putting the money into the temple box, was distributing to the poor on the way. And he went behind him. They reached Rishikesh, which was halfway. And then from Rishikesh further into the mountains, which is another half part of the journey. And they are in Rishikesh. In the meantime, the monk had reached the temple in Badrinath, Kedar, the Vishnu temple. And this man had in the meantime reached Rishikesh. And there he had a dream. And in that dream, now in the meantime, the monk had reached Badrinath, the temple in Badrinath, and he was left with 1 rupee. So he put the 1 rupee into the temple box. Then that night, the man had a dream wherein the good Lord came to him and said, I have received 999 rupees, but you have got to still give me 1 rupee. The money which was given to the poor, the good Lord had received it. But the money which was put into the box, God never receives it at any time. So he said, so that is why Jesus said, give it to the poor. When he told the young man, sell your possessions and give it to the poor. Give it to the poor. He didn't tell, give it to the temple, give it to the rich. He said, give it to the poor. And God receives it. So therefore, Jesus is also rebuking in the temple of Jerusalem as to what's going on, what goes on in the temple and the house of prayer. So God wants nothing from you. He only wants your heart. That's all that God wants. That's the only thing you can offer. There's nothing else. He wants your heart and soul. That's the only thing that you can give, and that's all that he wants. He doesn't want anything material out of you, from you. So therefore, he says, you have made it a den of thieves, a den of thieves. And that is very true indeed. Every temple in every part of the world which is operating has got undesirable elements in charge of it, for whom it's a profitable enterprise. They all dip their hand and take something out of it. So therefore, he's using the word den of thieves. I'm not saying it, I'm only interpreting what Jesus is saying as to what goes on in temples. In temples. House of God, he have made it a den of thieves. Now, in line number 18, and the scribes and the chief priests heard it. The scribes are the scholars of the scriptures, and the chief priests in the temple heard it. And they sought how they might destroy him, and they discussed amongst themselves how we could kill this person, destroy him. But they feared him, because all the people were astonished at his doctrine. They feared him because the people were astonished and respected his doctrines and teachings. Whatever teachings that he had been giving so far were so wondrous teachings, and the people respected that. Therefore, they didn't want to do anything to him. They were afraid, the priest. And when even was come, he went out of the city, and when evening time came, he once again came out of the city. And in the morning, as they passed by, they saw the fig tree dried up from the roots. And as they returned by, they saw the fig tree, the disciples of Jesus, they saw the fig tree dried up from the roots, because Jesus had cursed that fig tree, and it had now withered and dried away, dried up from the roots. And Peter, calling to remembrance, said unto him, and Peter recalled it unto him and said, Master, behold, the fig tree which thou cursest is withered away. The fig tree which thou hast cursed has withered away, has faded away. And Jesus answering him said unto him, have faith in God. That was his reply. Have faith in God. Perhaps Jesus may have cursed that fig tree to indicate another interesting truth to people, that if you have faith in God, then you could do anything. Faith, true faith, 100% faith in God. Have faith in God. For verily I say unto you, that whosoever shall say unto this mountain, be thou removed, and be thou cast into the sea, and shall not doubt in his heart, but shall believe that those things which he saith shall come to pass, he shall have whatsoever he saith. So that is to say, Jesus says, for verily I say unto you, that whosoever shall say unto this mountain with great deal of faith, be thou removed to the mountain itself. Remove yourself from this place and get lost into the sea and get into the sea. If you tell that with all faith to the mountain, but you must have implicit faith to do that. And if you can have that faith, that implicit faith, then even a mountain can be cast into the sea, into the ocean. And without any doubt in it, not even an iota of doubt should be there. If an iota of doubt is there, it will not take place. But such faith in a person is very rare indeed. And such a person, so he say, he shall have whatsoever he saith. So such a person, whatever he saith will transpire. A person who has got, and such people are the holy people in the world indeed, who have such extreme faith. So whatever they say will happen. The holy people, because their faith in themselves and in God is so intense that whatever they say would happen automatically, would transpire automatically. And then Jesus says, when you stand praying, forgive if you have aught against any. And in case, if you stand praying, and if in your prayers, if you have aught against any, while praying, if you have something which is aught against any, that means you have got a problem with somebody, some sort of problem with anybody, with somebody, then don't harbor it in your heart. Forgive that person for whatever the situation. With your whole heart, you just forgive and release that problem out of you. And when you stand praying, forgive if you have aught against any. If you have got a grudge against any, if you have got a problem with any, for whatever purpose or whatever reason, just forgive and forget. Immediately forget it. Forgive and forget. The matter is over. And if you do so, then what happens is that your Father also, which is in heaven, may forgive you your trespasses. And if you do that, if you forgive others for their trespasses upon you, your Father too will forgive you for your own trespasses against any. Forgive your own trespasses, because you may have also not done many things which you are supposed to do. You may have said that you would do this and you have not done it. So that is an offense. That's your trespass to your sayings. So therefore, since you have not done what you should have done, in the form of whatever it is, especially duty, as far as duty is concerned, to each person has got his own duty in life. And in case he does not do his duty in whatever form it comes, then that's it. And God, if you forgive others, whereby others have not done something proper to you, so they have become offensive towards you. And if you forgive them, then God too will forgive you your own trespasses in whatsoever manner. But if you do not forgive, but in case you do not forgive, neither will your Father which is in heaven forgive your trespasses. But if you do not forgive, neither will God forgive you. If you hold a grudge against somebody, neither will God forgive you your grudges, your own errors. Your own errors in whatever form. So if you forgive others for their offenses against you, then God too will also forgive you for your errors in life. So that is what Jesus is saying here. Then thereafter, they come again to Jerusalem, and they came once again to Jerusalem. And as he was walking in the temple, there came to him the chief priest and the scribes and the elders. And once again, they came to the Jerusalem, and he was walking in the temple. Jesus was walking in the temple. There came to him the chief priest and the scribes and the elders. So the chief priest, the scribes, and the elders, the local elders, they all came to him and say unto him, by whose authority, by what authority dost thou these things? And who gave thee this authority to do these things? So they are asking him a very strong question, because they had seen Jesus do many things, do miraculous things. On the way, they have heard about it. And then also in the temple, he had thrown the money changers he has thrown away the tables as if it was his own house, as if it was his own place. With authority, he had thrown the tables away. He had dispersed the money changers and chased them away out of that place. In fact, it is said that he took a rope and with that rope, he began slashing at those who were working on it. And therefore, they asked him, with what authority are you functioning? With what authority? And say unto him, by what authority dost thou do these things? That you are doing these things with what authority? That is, in the temple, you chased away the money changers on one side. On the other side, you are performing miracles, miraculous deeds. So they're asking, with what authority? And who gave you this authority to do these things? And who gave you this authority? And now they are trying to pin Jesus. They want to pin him in some form or the other, trip him. They want to trip him. And Jesus answered and said unto them, I will also, he countered that question of theirs by a counter question. Sometimes you may have to counter a question by a counter question. That's a way of answering, with a counter question. And Jesus answered and said unto them, I will also ask of you one question. I will also ask you one question. And answer me. And then I will tell you by what authority I do these things. Then if you answer my question, then I will tell you by what authority I do these things that I am doing. Then Jesus asked this question. The baptism of John, was it from heaven or of men? Answer me. So that was a question. Jesus put this question. The baptism of John, was it from heaven or of men? Answer me. Now that was a tricky question. And the priest and the scribes, what did they do? They reasoned, line number 31, they reasoned with themselves, saying, if we shall say from heaven, if we say it is from heaven, the authority with which John was baptizing, the baptism of John, that he was baptizing, and if we say from heaven, if it is from heaven, he will say, why then did you not believe him? If the baptism which was being done by John unto the multitude in the river Jordan, it was something enjoined from heaven, from God himself, then why didn't you believe it? He will say, why then did you not believe him? But if we shall say of men, if we shall say it is only from men, not from the heavens, but from men. They feared the people, for all men counted John, that he was a prophet indeed. They feared to say that it was from men. It is from men because all the people around felt that counted John, that he was a prophet, that John was a prophet. People all felt that John was a prophet. So therefore, this baptism that he is doing is not from men, because he is a prophet. So we can't answer it either way. As Jesus said, was it from God? Baptism of John, was it from heavens or of man? So we can't say either. If it is from God, if it is from heavens, why didn't you believe? And if you say it is from men, they were afraid because people considered John the Baptist as a prophet. So we also can't say that. So therefore, the priest, what did they say? But if we shall say of men, they feared the people. For all people counted John that he was a prophet indeed. And they answered and said unto Jesus, and they answered and told Jesus, therefore, we cannot tell. We cannot answer this question. And Jesus answering saith unto them, neither do I tell you by what authority I do these things. If you can't tell, why should I also tell by what authority that I do these things? So they kept quiet. They kept quiet. Then, he didn't stop at that. In chapter 12, he is now continuing his, shall we say, his condemnation of the priest is continuing now. And he began to speak unto them by parables. And he began to speak unto the assembled people in the temple in parables. And what was the parable? It was a parable of the vineyard, the vineyard parable. Chapter 12, a certain man planted a vineyard and set an hedge about it and digged a place for the wine fat and built a tower and let it out to husbandmen and when it went into a far country. A certain man, now he's explaining an interesting truth about the parable of the vineyard, A certain man planted a vineyard in order to obtain wine from grapes and set an hedge about it and covered it with hedges and digged a place for the wine fat, and he also dug a pit so that the grapes can be crushed and made into wine, and digged a place for the wine fat and built a tower as well and let it out to husbandmen and let it out to a certain people and went into a far country. Husbandmen means this man gave it to some persons to take care of the vineyard. And at the season, when the season had come, line number 2, he sent to the husbandman a servant that he might receive from the husbandman of the fruit of the vineyard. And then when the time had come, this man, the owner of the vineyard, he sent a servant to collect his share of the wine of the vineyard, the fruit of the vineyard. But what did they do, those people? They caught the servant and beat him and sent him away empty. They beat him, caught him, beat him, and then sent him away empty. Did not give the share of the owner of the vineyard. And again he sent unto them another servant. He also sent another servant. At him they cast stones, and at the second servant they cast stones. They not only beat him, they cast stones and wounded him in the head and sent him away shamefully handled. And the second servant, the next servant also, they wounded him on the head and sent him away shamefully handled. Manhandled him shamefully. And again he sent another, and him they killed. And the vineyard owner, he sent another servant, the third servant. And what did they do? They killed him. And many others, beating some and killing some. And he constantly kept on sending some of them over and over again. But what did these people do? They began killing them. Then, in line number 6, having yet therefore one son, he had only one son now left, his well-beloved son. He sent him also last unto them to collect his share, saying, they will reverence my son. At least they will reverence my son. So he sent his son, his beloved son. But those husbandmen said among themselves, this son who has come to collect the due is the heir. Come, let us kill him, and the inheritance shall be ours. Let us kill him. And after having killed him, there'll be nobody else left to inherit this property, and we will all inherit it. We will all inherit it. And they took him and killed him and cast him out of the vineyard. And they took the son, killed him, and threw him out of the vineyard. Therefore, what shall therefore the Lord of the vineyard do, the owner of the vineyard do? He will come and destroy the husbandmen and will give the vineyard unto others. And he will give it to others. Now, this particular parable has got a significance. The servants who came to collect their share of the vineyard were the prophets, earlier prophets, who had come and who had come to give a teaching, a message. They had come to give a message. And invariably, many of the prophets were killed. Many of the prophets were killed. And the final prophet who was killed was John the Baptist. John the Baptist was the final prophet who came. He was killed. He was also killed. Then the good Lord sent his only son, Jesus, his only son, Jesus, to go and reclaim his due, his share. And now Jesus is indicating what will happen to him subsequently later on. So Jesus was the son who had come to collect the dues. And therefore, so this is the implication here in this parable of the vineyard. That they didn't want to receive Jesus. They didn't want to receive earlier the prophet John the Baptist. Neither did they want to receive, even before in the Old Testament, many of the other prophets who had come before. They didn't want to receive. It's a very interesting thing. The enemies of the human race wherein you get prophets and wise men coming into the scene. Their enemies are invariably the priest. The priests do not like the good sayings and the teachings of holy people. So therefore they kill them. And this has been the phenomenon all through human history in all parts of the world. The priests are hostile because the priests dwell in priestly ritualistic priestcraft. And when the holy people come and give a message or a teaching about the truth of the matter, the priests feel that they will be put out of business. The business which they had come down for generations. So therefore, this is exactly what they do, the priests all over the world. So here Jesus is indicating what the character of the priests are and what they have been doing to the human race in different parts of the world. They are the enemies of the human race. Then, what shall therefore the Lord of the vineyard do? So, he will come and destroy the husbandmen and will give the vineyard unto others. And then Jesus mentions, have you not read this scripture? Have you not read it in the scripture? The stone which the builders rejected is become the head of the corner. It's a very famous statement. The stone which is rejected has become the cornerstone. Of course, in the Gospels, the cornerstone of the church is being used in another gospel. But at that time, there were no churches. The concept of a church did not exist. So it only ends with, has become the head of the corner. That is to say, The stone the builders rejected is become the head of the corner. So here it's symbolic. The stone which is the central piece, central core of the teaching of Jesus. Because when you build a temple, you have a central piece around which the entire temple is built. Here also, the stone which the builders rejected, the teachings which the builders rejected, the men in charge of the temples, has become the head of the corner, has become the head of the corner is an expression, has become the Christian doctrine. Head of the Christianity has become Christianity. So as a result of it, the world over, Christianity has spread. The teachings of Jesus has spread the world, has spread, which was initially rejected. The teachings of Jesus was initially rejected by the temple priest, the Jewish temple priest. That teaching has become the central point of the spread of the religion, or the spread of the teachings of Jesus. All over it has spread. So that's what he's indicating here. And this is the Lord's doing. All this is because of the Lord's doing. The good Lord has seen to it that the teachings of Jesus would spread all over the world, which was initially rejected by the Israelite Jews. The priest, it was rejected, the teachings were rejected, and that teaching has now spread the world over. And it is all the Lord's doing, and it is marvelous in our eyes, and it is marvelous. And they sought to lay hold on him, and those priests and the scribes, they sought to lay hold on him. They wanted to catch him. They wanted to physically catch him. But they feared the people, but they were afraid of the people. For they knew that he had spoken the parable against them. So this parable which Jesus had used, the parable of the vineyard, was actually spoken against the priest. And the priest knew this, that this parable was mentioned by Jesus as a parable against them. They knew it, but they couldn't do anything to him at that point. And therefore they left him and went their way. And therefore they left him. They didn't want to do anything to him, and they went their way. Then they didn't stop with that. The priest, in line number 13, and they sent unto him certain of the Pharisees and of the Herodians to catch him in his words and to trip him in his words. So they sent some of the other Pharisees, the lay priest, and the Herodians. Herodians are the persons who consort with the Romans. They were Jewish people, but they were always, you will find some people who were consorting with the rulers, members of the same community, but consorting with the rulers. You will find them all the time in every part of the world. So they were the Herodians to catch him in his words, to trip him in his words, the words and the phrases which Jesus was using. And when they were come, and they came to Jesus, and they told him, say unto him, Master. They know very well who Jesus is. Master, we know that thou art true. Now they are trying to pretend that they are honorable people. Master, we know that thou art true, that you are a true person, that what you say is the truth, is the truth. So they are trying to trip him. And carest for no man, and you don't care for any man, because you speak the truth fearlessly. Huh? You don't care for any flattery, any favors from any man, and thou carest for no man. That's why they are all afraid. When a man is bold, he doesn't care for anyone, but he speaks the truth. The others are afraid. And thou carest for no man, for thou regardest not the person of men, and you don't regard anybody. Huh? Not the person of men, but teacheth the way of God and truth. But you teach the way of God and the truth. You don't regard the humans around you, however high and mighty they may be. You don't care for it. You boldly speak and teach, but teacheth the way of God in truth. You speak of God. You speak of God and in truth, the way towards God, and in truthfully you speak. Therefore, you are such a true person indeed. Huh? Therefore, that is why in the world you will find great teachers and great prophets being persecuted in the West and in the East too, because the powers that be are afraid of these people. So therefore he says, is it lawful to give tribute? So now they're trying to pin him. Is it lawful to give tribute to Caesar or not? Huh? Is it lawful to give tribute to Caesar or not? Shall we give or shall we not give? Tell us. You tell us, oh Jesus, whether we should give tribute to Caesar or not. So at that time there was taxation. There was taxation wherein the Jewish people were heavily taxed. And the tax collectors were also people from the Jewish community who would collect the taxes and hand it over to the Romans. So these were the Herodians, who were not liked by the Jewish community because they were hand in gloves with their rulers. And you will find this group all the time. So shall we give or shall we not give? Tell us, Jesus, whether we should give tribute or pay our taxes to, tribute here means pay our taxes to Caesar or not. But he, knowing their hypocrisy, but Jesus knew their hypocritical nature, why they were asking him that question, said unto them, why tempt you me? Why are you trying to tempt me or trying to trip me? Bring me a penny, bring me a coin, bring me a penny, bring me a coin, that I may see it, that I could see the coin. And they brought it, and they brought a coin. And he saith unto them, and he told them, whose is this image and superscription? Whose is this image? The image on the coin, whose is it? And the superscription which is around it, whose is it? And they said unto him, Caesar's. And they said, it is Caesar. The image is of Caesar's, and the superscription is also on Caesar. And Jesus answering said unto them, it's a very famous statement. Render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's. And they marveled at him. So render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's. Whatever belongs to Caesar, give it to Caesar. And whatever belongs to God, give it to God. Very clear. Very clear. So what belongs to Caesar, just hand it, give it to Caesar, because they are building, they are maintaining the place, maintaining the country, they are ruling the country. Therefore, they are taking some taxes out of you, just give it to them. So what belongs to Caesar, give it to the Caesar, give it to Caesar. But what belongs to God, and to God the things that are God's. And to God the things that are God's. Now, what are the things that are God's? That's very interesting. The things that are gods are the godly things. The godly things. What are the godly things? Love, kindness, compassion, charity, benevolence, goodness, prayerful state. All these belong to God. The prayerful state. So if you say he is a man of God, in a man of God, you will find all these qualities manifest. A man of God deals with God. Therefore, naturally, he has got love. That is why it is said God is love. Where there is love, there is compassion. Compassion is love. Where there is love, there is compassion. Where there is love, there is kindness. Where there is love, there is goodness. Where there is love, there is charity. The word charity is an unusual word. Really, what it means is charity is to give. And when you give lovingly. You don't do charity. When God gives you something, he's not doing charity to you. He's lovingly, graciously giving you. Similarly, you too also. Whenever you give anything to anybody, it is not given by you as charity. It is given by you out of sheer love, concern, and consideration. When you take care of your own children, are you doing charity to them? Certainly not. Out of your concern, out of your love, you're naturally giving it to them, naturally sharing it with them, naturally sharing it. So the concept of charity does not exist. It is only a natural. So all these belong to, these are gods. These are godly. These are godly. So what belongs to God? Things that are gods. So these are the things that are gods. So therefore, a person should be godlike in whatever he is and function in a godly way. Then whatever he does is done naturally. In a godly way. So love, compassion, when you do certain things, you naturally do it with love. You give it with love. You take care of a person with love. So these are the godly things. It is not called as service. It is not called as social service. It is a natural service. When you take care of your children, do you call it a social service? Certainly not. It is a natural service. It's an extension of your life. When you take care of the needy around you, it's just a natural process. You do it without expecting anything. You do it out of love. You do it out of concern. You do it not to expect anything back. You don't expect anything back. You naturally do it. So these are the things which belong to God. So that's what he says. Render unto Caesars that are Caesars, and render unto God that are God's. So when you do this, what happens is that you too also in due course would become godly in your nature. And this process will enable you to experience your godly divine status. So in this little statement itself, Jesus, by saying that what belongs to God, give it to God. This is what God wants from you. He doesn't want your physical offerings, does he? Can you please God with ritualistic offerings? No. You can only please God by doing what is right and what is proper, by doing your duty, by being a dutiful son. That's the only way that you can, that God will be pleased with you as his beloved son. Just as Jesus was his beloved son, so too also everyone in the world is God's beloved son. So therefore, everyone should learn to live their life lovingly, dutifully, with duty, and conduct one's life in a righteous, noble, and correct manner, just manner. And then when one lives one's life in this manner, then one truly becomes a son of God, and God is pleased with this person. So that is what all this comes into this picture, wherein render to God that are God's. And they marveled at him, and those who listened, the people around, the people who came to question and trip him, and the bystanders who were around listening to what Jesus was saying, they all marveled at the reply given by Jesus. The rest we'll continue tomorrow.